Hi, and welcome to Prepping Essentials.
Well, good morning. Here we are down the land. It's Saturday the 25th of February. Where does the time go? We're almost at the end of the month. Again. You can see it's a bit of a grey, dull, you probably can't see it's cool, but it is cool. So a grey, cool, dull kind of day. Not quite sure what we're going to get done this weekend actually. Busy, busy, busy as always. But whatever we're up to, I'll let you know as we go through the video. But for now, I'm going to get myself in the cabin, get it warmed up, get me warmed up, sort the chickens out, and we'll take it from there. Well, good morning and welcome to another weekend. And it's a cool, dark, damp weekend. So nothing new, I guess. Just been sorting the chickens out, collecting the eggs, and topping up the food and water for them. It tried desperately to rain while I was out there, but it was actually more of a sleet or very, very fine hailstone rather than rain, which doesn't really bode well. They've been talking about snow for quite a while now. Thankfully we've not seen it, but is this a sign of things to come? I don't know. Anyway, how are things with you? Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, hope you're staying safe and well and enjoying your weekend. Busy weekend for me, so I don't know what this video is going to look like, in all honesty. I suspect it'll be a bit of toing and froing between here at the cabin and the house or the garage, I'm guessing. I keep looking out the door there to see what it's doing weather-wise outside, because there's a few things I really need to do this morning on the raised bed polytunnel area. We've got the perennial problem of pest. You'll remember I've complained about rabbits eating the trees, and a friend Matt came down and took a few of those out. I think I put a community tab out. I'm not sure if I did or I didn't this week. Can't remember. I came down, as I always do during the week, just to check on the chickens. And that raised bed that I planted all that garlic in last year, the rabbits have been in there digging it up. I noticed last weekend a little bit of a scraping. I'm sure I mentioned it in the video. There's a hole in the mesh that covers those raised beds. I just swept this all back, and apart from moaning about it, didn't really do anything else. Came down middle of the week, rabbits had got inside and actually dug a hole in the middle of the raised bed, dug up lots of garlic bulbs in the process. So I diligently filled the hole back in, tidied up the bed. Come down this morning, I'll show you in a minute when we pop outside. Carnage. So I've got to fill another hole in. So I'm going to have this coffee, and there is a lot to talk about, as there usually is nowadays. But I think I'll save that for later, and instead of doing the normal cabin chat, I'll do the roundup of the news, probably from the house when I get back. It has been a chaotic week. I think I've mentioned in a couple of videos that I had family issues. Mother wasn't very well, and sadly on Sunday night she actually passed away. So now there's all of the bureaucracy to go through at a time like this. The bureaucracy just seems to get more and more and more. So if I seem distracted, it's because I am. So I have that to contend with. A couple of other bits and pieces from a personal perspective. Work's been really busy. I was away in London all day yesterday. So yeah, crazy. And I'm trying to play catch up this weekend. So I'll get this coffee down me. We'll have a little run round outside. Again, the weather is not helping me. The things I really want to get done, like the cabin roof, the weather's just not letting me do that. I'm praying, because I have got a little bit of spare time next week, away from work. I'm praying that we get a couple of days, just give me 2 days of no rain, no wind, and I can get all of the roof off, rejig it a little bit, and then get the new roof on. So if you like to see the fun and games of struggling to re-roof the cabin, stay tuned. Other than that, I'll save the rest for whenever over the course of the weekend, and we'll do a bit of a dive into the news. But for now, I'm going to get the coffee down me, and I'm going to get outside. So we'll just have a quick run outside, and you can see what I'm complaining about. I've got the wheelbarrow there ready to fill with soil to go on a hole filling mission, but look at this. This is what I'm talking about. You can see where they've been digging. You can also see this is grass and moss. Now, I don't know where this has come from, whether it's come from inside that bloody great hole, or whether they've been trying to drag this in to make a little nest. I don't know, but that's a huge hole. I mean, I tried putting my arm in that to see if I could feel how far it went, and my arm wasn't long enough. So I thought, I wonder, are they actually in there? Are the rabbits in their new house? So, call me cruel, but I got a few containers of water and threw 40 litres down there, which actually filled it completely, and nothing came out. So I can only take it that there's nothing in there, and that that's just the start of them trying to create a new little house down there. So I'm going to get that filled in. I don't know how this garlic's going to survive, because you can see they've all been the tops chewed right off them, and of course all of these have been dug up, and you can see the remnants of bulbs here, and the rest got buried. But they too had been chopped up. The strawberries that I put in, gone, completely decimated, which is odd because they're not touching this other bed. That's as it was last year. Bit bizarre. Oh, there's a stray there. What's that? Oh, it's thistles. I got all excited then. I thought I'd got some stray plants growing. Yeah, so how annoying is that? So I'm going to get that filled in. I've got the cover, or what remains of it, laid out ready to recover it. You can probably see there the gap. There's a huge hole there, all the way across to here. That's a big hole. So I'm going to get that recovered. So stand by. Once I've done this, we'll take a look and see what's going on in the polytunnel. But weather, you can just see it's grey clouds, and as I say, it was trying to rain earlier. I suspect that's probably going to come back, but we'll see. I've got to try and fill the hole completely all the way back. It's a deep old hole, I have to I think actually I might have a bit of soil here. It really is so annoying. The ones I'm uncovering are all bloody chewed. Down the other side. Hopefully the ones that have just been covered up will regrow. I guess time will tell. Okay. There's just so many been chewed. It's so annoying. Right. I think that's about it. Let's see what happens. Well, that's the cover redone, so we'll just get it popped back on the raised bed and job's a good one. Well, the bed's covered up again, so let's see if that keeps the critters out. Oh dear. Right, quick run round the polytunnel so you can see what's going on in here. It's nice and warm actually. That heater is doing its thing. It's not hot, so don't get me wrong, but that is stopping the temperature in here dropping below freezing, which is all I want really. Still no sign of potatoes yet. Don't know whether that should come as a surprise or not. Nor indeed is there any signs of life in these lettuce and carrot pots that I've put in, which is a bit disappointing. I had expected something by now. and in all honesty I can't see anything in there. In terms of the trays, this one is lettuce, and we have actually got signs of life. There's one there, and there's another one up here. So that is positive. Not exactly earth shattering, but it is positive. Tomatoes and cucumber, no signs of tomatoes yet in any of these, but there is one little solitary cucumber. So I'm going to take that as a positive. I don't care what you say. The surprising thing is the peas. Look at that. Almost every cell in that tray now has a pea sprouting. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5. Oh, sorry, 6. There's 6 that don't have. But some of them, I mean, this one here is enormous. So I'm definitely taking that as a positive. So fingers crossed, this year we might actually get some peas. Yeah, that heater, it is still pushing out. Literally all I'm doing twice a week during the week, and then of course at the weekend. Listen to that noise. Oh dear. Boy races. Boy races. Yeah, all I'm doing is just taking a look at the wick. Unbelievable. Taking a look at the wick, and if it needs it, just trimming it down a little bit. But in all honesty, it's not really been trimmed. It's a couple of weeks now. And then just keeping an eye on the fuel. And it's just sitting with that little flame 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, doing its thing, keeping the temperature above freezing. So fingers crossed that'll continue. Still very, very, very grey here. We're going to get something today. Whether it's rain, snow, I don't know, but we're going to get something for sure. I have got loads to do this weekend away from here, so I'll just kind of take clips and at some point over the weekend roll it all together into some semblance of a video. Too cold for the bees, unfortunately. We'll take a look at that in a minute when I leave, but there's no sun. Lots of lovely birds floating around now, all different varieties, and I did see some signs of life on some of the trees. I've not looked at this one particularly, but yeah, there is. We're starting to get buds, so maybe, just maybe, spring is springing. Anyway, let me get back in the cabin, get sorted out and get off. Well, unsurprisingly, the rain has come back, so it's probably just as well I'm heading off home. There's a couple of geese floating over there. They're hiding behind the trees. You can probably hear that on the polytunnel. Not great, but thankfully I'm going anyway, so I'm not losing anything. The couple of bits I wanted to do, I've managed to get done. Nothing around the beehive today, unfortunately, but not surprising. It is cold and rainy. The bushes are starting to bud though, so it won't be long before the bees have got a little bounty to forage on. Normally the first thing we see is dandelions, so over the next few weeks I'll keep an eye out for them. I'm just keen for the bees to have something to have a go at. These poor trees. trees. Oh, I do believe we have got some signs of buds on there, so fingers crossed. Not sure about that one though. That's looking very sad. Anyway, I'm getting wet. Let me get back in the car and I'll catch up with you when I get back to the house. Well, we're back in the house. It's been a bit of a long day. A shocking weather again today. It's on and off rain mixed with a bit of sleet. So there's nothing I can do right now down on the land. But the message in today's video is all about food. I know, I know I keep banging on about food, and particularly since prices started skyrocketing a year and a half ago, I've talked endlessly about food. But there's a few interesting things that have cropped up over the last few weeks. So I've been busy putting stuff away, just topping up as I normally do. And it's quite interesting because, I don't know if you noticed, this isn't like Nescafe or Dow Egbert's coffee. This is supermarket own brand coffee in these full pouches. Much easier to store than glass jars, obviously. But bear in mind it's own brand. As is this hot chocolate. Again, it's an own brand in a foil bag rather than a... these normally come in like cardboard with plastic lid cartons, but much easier to store in this kind of packaging. And another one, kids' favourite, I guess, hazelnut spread. Again, an own brand version in a plastic container rather than a glass jar. And you'll get the relevance of that as I go through this portion of the video. So lots of interesting stuff around food, which really pushes me to urge you all to please do keep topping up your preps. When you think about inflation, for example, and how much it's been going up, and over the last couple of months there's been this kind of reassuring noise from government and media about, oh, inflation stopped going up, it's dropped by 0.3% or 0.1% last month. Just bear in mind that for the last year and a half, coming on 2 years now, inflation has been going up and up and up and up and up. So just because suddenly the media or the government says, don't worry, inflation stopped going up, in fact it's dropped ever so slightly, that doesn't mean that prices are going down. That just means that they're not going up as quickly as they have been. So you've still got these 20-30% per year, depending on what it is that you're buying, price rises that aren't going to go away. They're there, they're locked in, and then they're gradually being added to again. So don't let any myth about inflation dropping fool you and make you think that prices are going to come back down, because I promise you they're not. Anyway, let's take a little look at what's been going on over the last week to do with food. There's been an awful lot of media articles over the last week or so talking about problems with food supply chain. Some of the articles have focused on cost, as in inflation making prices higher. Example of that could be the price of pasta shooting up 50% over the year. Others have talked about rising energy prices, fertiliser prices, general prices that people who produce food have had to cope with increases of over the last year or two. Others have focused on a more recent problem in the food supply chain caused by bad weather in places that grow seasonal crops such as tomatoes, cucumbers, lettuces, in countries where we import them from, such as in Africa or Latin America. It's got quite serious now and made mainstream media, and lots of people, including politicians, have been jumping on the bandwagon to tell us all about it and why it's not a problem, or if it is a problem, it's something we need to sort out ourselves rather than them sorting it out for us.
Modern supermarkets have it all. That is, until they don't. Across the country, fruit and veg aisles are increasingly bare. Tesco has joined Aldi, Asda and Morrison's in introducing rationing. I don't suppose you've noticed vegetable shortages when you're in the shop?
Massive.
You have?
Yeah, just now.
Were you looking for them particularly, or...?
Tomatoes, no, they're a bit insipid this time of year.
I think like everything else, we just go with the flow and see what happens, you know? That's it. That's it.
That's pretty sanguine of you.
Well, what else can we do, babe?
No panic buying, I would say, as yet. I mean, I've not walked in and been like, there's absolutely no food to be had. It's just, potentially buying alternatives or something different.
Shelves at this smaller grocer looked healthier, but not for long. The owner told us his wholesale costs have recently doubled. There are two main reasons for the shortages. First, bad weather in parts of southern Europe and North Africa, places like Spain, Tunisia, Morocco, which the UK relies heavily on at this time of year for most of our salad crops. Secondly, the soaring cost of energy has meant producers right here in the UK have sharply reduced their own production. And it may get worse before it gets better. The UK's largest tomato grower has warned disruption could last until May.
This year what's happened, we've grown the crop, the last year's crop later to try and recover some value because everybody's been squeezed on prices for not just energy but fertiliser, labour, everything's gone up. So we've gone later, so we've started later. So instead of starting end of March, we're more like the end of April into May.
In response, at the National Farmers Union conference, the Environment Secretary had this to say.
Front page of every newspaper, salad shortages, Asda rationing, that will be happening.
We can't control the weather in Spain either, so...
That went down badly in a room of farmers who say energy subsidies would have supported domestic production. Until that starts to increase, we're unlikely to see the green shoots of recovery on our shelves. Matthew Thompson, Sky News.
So, lots of talk in the media about shortages and indeed government as well talking about shortages. Predominantly, this is seasonal food right now, stuff that we don't grow in the UK at this time of the year and we import from overseas. But I've talked about weather endlessly over certainly this last year. You've seen the challenges that I've had on my land with trying to grow crops during periods of too much rain, too much frost, or unseasonably warm or cold temperatures. It does have a major impact. The differences year on year can be massive. I've certainly said it last year, the difference in potatoes, for example, where we had that, it was an endless almost 8, 12 weeks of really high temperatures, no rain at all. And when I harvested the potatoes, it was really noticeable. So weather, there's lots of it, always, but we are having kind of unseasonal temperatures. And over the last, certainly few months, lots and lots of heavy wind, different parts of the world that have just destroyed crops. So lots of talk about shortages. And it's quite funny when you watch news articles about things like salads. They're not really a staple crop. What would happen if the potato harvest this year just got destroyed, or the rice harvest in India and other parts of Asia got destroyed? We've heard conversations connected with Ukraine war about wheat supplies suddenly been dramatically impacted. So shortages, I think it's something we're going to see more and more of because of this uncertainty, and not just around weather, but the inputs, the fertilizers, the pesticides, the herbicides. So also lots of talk about prices in particular in the media recently. So let's take a little look at some of the stuff that's been in the news this week around food inflation. There was a really interesting article in the mainstream media, and quite surprising that they actually went into quite some detail on this. It was doing a survey by a marketing company called Which. They have a quite famous magazine that comes out, I think it's monthly. And it made its way into the mainstream news media. And it was essentially saying supermarket value range shoppers are having the biggest problem facing them with food inflation. And they mean, when they say value range, they mean the supermarket own brands. And essentially, own brand supermarket foods, your kind of essentials, they call them, prices were up 21.6% in January compared with the year before. And it actually gets a bit worse when they dig deeper into the different types of food. They were saying that some of the biggest increases between the different kinds of retail supermarkets, quite staggering. Some muesli or cereal ranges in one supermarket were up by 87%. Sliced carrots, not that I buy bags of sliced carrots, I buy just carrots, but lots of people are lazy and prefer to buy them sliced. 63% up on last year. Sausages up 58% from last year. And then other things such as butter, 30%, milk, 26%. Some really quite shocking price hikes. And that's, bear in mind, these are the value brands. They're not the big corporate brands. These are the supermarket's own products. So huge amounts of inflation. And if people aren't noticing it by now, then they must be rich, I think, because everybody else certainly is. So, as you can see, lots and lots of talk in the media about the price, the cost of living crisis, particularly around food, and surprisingly around these own brand, supermarket own brand products. Quite a lot of in-depth research by that company called which indicates that own brand foods, the inflation has been much higher for own brand than it has for your big corporate brands. And that's quite interesting. Were I to have my tinfoil hat to hand, I'd be tempted to say that there's a little conspiracy theory there. Could it be that it's the supermarkets price gouging, taking advantage of the fact that the world is talking about shortages, input costs, which are causing dramatic increase in inflation, particularly food? It's not beyond the realms that the big corporations are taking advantage. Remember the old saying, never let a crisis go to waste. So yeah, what do you think? Is it the corporations taking advantage, particularly the supermarket chains with their own brand, what they call cheaper foods, which aren't actually that cheap now? What do you think? Anyway, finally, one final point. I'm always saying that government is not your friend. They are purely out to serve themselves and their elitist or big corporation buddies, the ones that fund them or give them jobs when they come out of politics. And it's true. But without going too political and upsetting some of the viewers, it's interesting to note that when I keep saying government's not going to help you, you've got to help yourself. Really interesting clip came out in the news media this week of a government minister here in the UK, was asked a question in the House of Commons around food availability, food pricing, and the fact that lots of people in the UK, more and more it seems, are really struggling to feed their families and are becoming more dependent on food banks as a way of getting, well, essentially free food. So there was one of the MPs was asking a question around that, and what was the government going to do? You know, this MP was doing her bit by helping her local food bank, but what was the government going to do for the general population to help them with the food crisis? What did she say? Let's have a look.
INS highlighting a 16.8% increase in food prices in the year to January, government has built its food poverty infrastructure with dependency on voluntary donations and retail waste donations. However, due to demand, food banks in York are running out, eking out food supplies. For my part, I'm holding a citywide donation day so that those who can give and those in need receive. We call it York Together as we support one another. However, what is the government doing to ensure that no one goes without?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Lady is right to praise the initiative in York with her constituents, and I think that's very welcome. It is an element of what can also be done locally. But we talk about aspects of food pricing. Inflation is really tough at the moment. There's no doubt about that. And I'm conscious, though, that we still have a situation where, generally across Europe, we have one of the lowest proportion of our incomes being spent on food. Supermarkets have been very competitive, and we may discuss some of that later. But I do want to encourage her to also work within supporting the Household Support Fund. That is intended to go to people particularly in need. But of course, we do know that one of the best ways to boost their incomes is not only to get into work if they're not on work already, but potentially to work some more hours, to get upskilled, to get higher income. But of course, the local welfare grant that was given some time ago now by central government to local councils is there for them to use as well.
So, there we go. I'm going to get myself into the garage, pop away my little top-ups to go into my preps. I'm a bit of a tidy around in there. The weekend just whizzes by so quick, and I've got so much other stuff going on. As I said in the cabin chat at the start, so much other stuff going on that it's difficult sometimes to keep myself focused, and certainly difficult to keep putting out videos on a regular basis. So apologies if this is a bit of a mixed match today. I am trying to do my best with the time that I have available to me. So let me know what you think about food availability, pricing, and the general state of insecurity that we are in right now when it comes to food for me, you, and the general public. I am trying to make an extra effort this year. You've already seen I've got an early start on the planting season this year. Fingers crossed that we'll have a better year than we did last year, and that the weather will not, or the pests will not, attack me quite so much this year, and hopefully we'll have a bit better variety and better quantity when it comes to harvest time than we did last year. I am doing this partially as a long-term prepping experiment to see what works and what doesn't, and I've said that many times in previous videos, but it's kind of more important than ever now because of the price of food and because of the unreliability of the food supply chain. The more I can produce myself, the less money I have to spend, and the more chance that I'll have stuff that isn't always available when I want it in the supermarkets. And I would suggest that you do the same. Have a little experiment. Even if you've only got a little balcony on a flat, you can still put pots and containers out and grow something. It's free food, essentially. It's a massive learning experience and knowledge build and skill build. And if we ever do get to this, and who knows the way things are going militarily and politically in the world, if we ever do get to that something hit the fan scenario, at least you've had a practice and you know what you're doing. You will be able to have sufficient skill and knowledge to actually grow your own when the supermarkets have totally gone. And I mean gone, not just they're having a truck delayed or the prices are a bit high. If it's a SHTF, there aren't any more supermarkets. So give it a go yourself and try. Anything else, let me know what you're doing, what you're growing, what you're not growing, any other prepping information, skills, advice you want to share. Please do put your comments in the comment section below. And also, please, as a favour, just try and help the channel out by clicking the like button, clicking the subscribe button if you haven't already done that, sharing the video,
the more activity and clicks and comments I can get on the videos, the more it pushes the video out to other people who might not be subscribers and might not otherwise come across them. So give me a bit of a help out with that. I do try my best for you, so bit of a favour for me, just hit all the buttons. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, please do stay safe and well. Please do enjoy your weekend, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Well, that's it for this video. I hope there was something in there that was of interest to you. If you did like the video, please do click on the like button. Also feel free to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. As always, I welcome any comments, questions or suggestions you might have. Just feel free to leave them in the comments section below. But for now, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.